Well, hello, and welcome to Innovation in Podcast, where we explore people, processes, and tools behind product innovation. I'm Nolan Myers, a principal at TC Gen, and I'm here with Krista Brown, a fellow principal at TC Gen. Hi, Krista, and welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah. Today, we are going to be talking about how to leverage assessment to up-level a product management team. And this is something that both Krista and I have a lot of passion around and think can be very helpful. So Krista, let's start. Tell me a little bit about what it means to leverage assessment to up-level a PM team. What is this assessment?
Sure. So what we do is we have one-on-one conversations, someone from TC Gen and someone from our client. We have one-on-one conversations with them that are 30, maybe 45 minutes long. And we go through a scripted set of questions where we're looking at different attributes or traits. These questions are open-ended. There's not a right or a wrong answer. And we want people to talk about their job, how they do their job, and what they're thinking about when they do that. And we're looking for certain skills so we can see if where those people are on their maturity journey. Are they just getting started? Maybe they're a novice in certain areas, or have they been with this for a long time and they're really skilled?
Thanks. And when is it most helpful? When have you found this to be the most useful kind of data to gather?
We've found two situations when people are really seeking this. One is when there's a new leader to the product organization and they're coming in and they're saying, "Hey, I would like to understand about my team. I don't have, I have a lot to do. I don't have 6 months to just really get a feel for how mature my organization is, or if there are pockets where things need to be addressed." So they're looking for, like, give me the Cliff Notes version quickly so I know what I'm looking at. The other time is when leaders have an idea that there is a maturity problem in their team. They may know exactly where it is, but they may not know what it is. Other times people say, like, it just feels like we're not doing as well as other product organizations. So
Mm,
those are the two scenarios when we generally see people asking for a maturity assessment.
Yeah. I think that's right. And it aligns very much. I think often as a product leader, you have a spidey sense that things are not working well. This is more for if you're already in there, right? You have a spidey sense of things not working, and you may even know kind of what at a high level those skills are that are lacking. But I even know I've been in this experience where it feels like, can't they just do it better? But actually, the assessment is a really great way to help understand where exactly that is, validate it, and be able to kind of then act in a focused way on those things. So let's share a
It
little bit
also
of, oh, go on, yeah.
No, I was just going to say it also helps you to understand the scope of your problem. Sometimes you look and say,
Mm,
like, I work with these 2, 5, 10 people, and I feel like we're missing this, but you don't know if that's all 60 or 80 people in your organization. You might, just be in the pocket that is missing that capability.
yeah, really good point. So let's talk a little bit about how we actually think about what this is. I'm sharing here on the screen a visual that has sort of five categories or five areas of maturity strength of a product management, of a product manager. Maybe you can narrate this for me and tell me what are these five categories and why do you think these are essential to product management?
Yeah. So the first one is customer value. So hopefully, as people mature, they are thinking about the impact any changes that they're doing to their product is having. Not, oh, my customer said they want this, but what's the scope of the impact? What improvement will that do to make the client more delighted? And how will that tangibly change things for them? The next one is the product value. And that's so while customer value is thinking about what's the value that our client has, the product value is thinking about the value that our product delivers up into the business, right? So if we think about the strategic goals of our company or organization, how does this product change contribute to that? And how will we know what success looks like?
Mm, that's great. Yes, it's sort of
Technical,
like how does it serve the product and how does it serve the company?
precisely.
Customer and company. Yeah.
Technical negotiation is one that's interesting because there should always be a healthy tension between the development organization and the product organization. As a product manager, people are used to being told, like, you thought that was a small t-shirt size and it's an extra large t-shirt size. So one of the things that we need from people is for them to have both a little bit of technical knowledge and a little bit of confidence for them to be able to stand up and say, maybe I didn't explain myself clearly. I think it's more like a small medium because of these assumptions, so that that there can be a healthy discussion instead of just saying, I request this, getting a completely different answer back from the development team, and then being like, well, I guess we can't build that for 4 more years. So,
Yeah.
in order for there to be that healthy tension, your product manager needs to be able to hold up their end of the healthy discourse.
This reminds me of an XKCD cartoon that I just loved from that I saw years ago, where a product manager is talking to an engineer, and they're building some photo tagging app, and the product manager says, "Hey, can you put a geocode on it?" And the engineer says, "Yeah, no problem. That'll take 10 minutes." And then the product manager says, "Oh, and can you also label what type of bird is in the picture?" And the engineer says, "Yep, I need 5 years and $30 million." And it's just like, so that sort of really embodies the technical negotiation. You have some sense of like, what is really the scope of things that you're asking for? And if you don't, you can be asking what seems like a very simple question, but actually is quite different. That probably leads
Exactly.
nicely into resilience when you get
Yes.
those answers that just sort of blow you away.
Well, not just right. So that's one of the reasons, is being blown away by the thing that you've asked for being much more complicated than you realize. But a lot of times it's the market changes, because a lot of times people are dealing in, relatively long cycles of what they thought they would be building and developing, and that's no longer what the customer requires. But also, quite often, our businesses, the companies that we work for, have different priorities. So, while there is something to be said for knowing when to stand your ground, there is also something to be said for knowing when to say, that's a bummer. We invested a lot of work, but our priority has changed and we need to move on. And it's basically the ability to kind of be healthy about knowing when to stand firm and knowing and being able to move forward.
Yeah. And that actually leads nicely into leadership, which I think is one of the most studied and talked about concepts in business, and is such an important part, and somewhat hard to can at times be hard to define. How do you think of leadership in a product role?
So when I think of leadership, I think that a lot of times the product manager might be one of the more well versed, they might have more visibility. That's the better way to say that, to the different aspects that are going on, right? They're going to be in touch with what is happening with the business, what is happening with the client. They may be getting a lot of varied different viewpoints. And one of the things that they need to be thinking about is not just having this information for themselves and then saying, this is the decision that has been made. This is what we will do. Now we will build this thing. Just go over there and blindly build it. Or, oh, that has changed. Now we're going to go blindly build something else. But for them to take the opportunity to lead, mentor, explain to the broader team that they support, so that
Mm,
all boats get lifted with this opportunity, right? Thinking about what is the value, what is the product impact, what is the resilience, how does that look, and how can you help instill those traits and characteristics in all members of your team?
yeah. It's interesting. I think often about leadership as you need to be able to chart a course, and you need to be able to convince people to follow that course. And both are, and there's a lot of uncertainty about whether the course is right or not. One can never know. So it's really interesting to do that. You had a point in our as we were talking that I thought was just really interesting to bring in here, and you talked about agile knowledge or subject matter experience, or subject matter expertise, not something that you have on this framework. What's your thinking behind that?
Well, certainly those things are important, right? So you must know your subject, in order to be able to develop products for it. And you must know Agile in whatever form your company has chosen to implement it. But those are really educational things that you can learn. These that we look at here are five more like traits that you embody as part of the mature product mindset. So we think of those separately, and companies can say like they do a great job of following all of the ceremonies that we want, or they're an expert in supply chain management logistics. But this is really thinking about like, does this person have the aptitude to be good at product management? Some people don't want to embody all of the things on this slide, and some people are in the progress of maturing along, from a novice to a skilled and person in these traits. So that's what we're really looking at, is those kinds of components.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and I just want to, because I want to keep this fairly concise. We have a couple of slides on how you might get there, or like how you might go about measuring these, and then how you might report on the results. But I'd like to skip all the way to the final, sort of the final idea then, which is how do you then think about using this? So let's say you go through this assessment, you have these interviews, you have a rubric, you have a report now that tells you where some of the strengths and weaknesses are on your team. How can you use that to actually up-level the team?
So what we look for is, where are the gaps and where are the strengths? So you might look and say the entire organization is poor or good at this one thing. Or you might say this team or this individual, right? You might look for what is the challenge, and what is the opportunity. How do you leverage the things that are good better in your organization? So that might be doing town halls, or having people who are considered exemplars and having them give talks to the product management team, because having a model of what great looks like is really important. Sometimes people are doing the job the way they think they should because they haven't seen any other option. So you want to leverage the great people you have, and show people how things can be done. It could be done in a mentor program. It could be done in a kind of a group thing where you're doing all hands calls. So that's definitely an option. When you find the things you're not doing well, you need to look at kind of the root of that problem. Sometimes we have people who are, I feel like product management is sort of like the promotion job for people, right? You were a great BA. You were a great subject matter expert. You were a great business contact. So we need your skills in product management. Sometimes though, we fail to give people the tools that they need to be good product managers. We just suck their subject matter expertise in, and we just don't give them the tools to have the things on that wheel that we just talked about. If we do that too often, then we have a hiring challenge where we have to say, HR team, leadership team, when we're looking for people, these are the skills that we need to bring in as we acquire more people. And it may be that there's just something that fundamentally in the company we didn't focus on. Our leadership didn't give us goals that we felt we could contribute to. We never followed an OKR style KPI. So we never had to say, how do we help the business? So it's not something the business has ever asked us to do. So our people don't do it. So we need to do a whole scale education for people as to what does that look like, and find small incremental ways for them to be successful in making the journey towards having that skill. So it
Yeah.
kind of just depends on the various different challenges you might find in a company.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it aligns a lot with kind of, I mapped out some things here in a visual here where, if you're finding that there are people that are like high performance, high potential, coaching might be a strategy, but you mentioned town halls and salons, I've heard, as another strategy there. So I think up in the top right quadrant of like high performance, those are strategies that you can use to up level the entire, even if your entire team is there, or if you have some individuals within the team there, those are strategies you might use. And then sort of in the middle area, there's various kinds of trainings that you might think about, rotational programs, different ways of doing cross training. And as you mentioned, if the team doesn't have the skill or the potential to do it, you want to think about bringing in people external.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just add in here also is with a client that we worked with, one of the things that they asked us to do sort of as a thank you for the people who took the time to go through this assessment was to work with their learning and development team for us to basically map out, if they were what was the number one thing that they were deficient in, and what is a learning and development opportunity that existed already that they could go and enroll in. And so that became part of their individual development plan, because people called and said, hey, I want to know how I did. And the team said, look, that's not exactly the scope of this. We were looking at this as a huge organizational basis. And they were like, yeah, but I personally want to get better. And so they thought about that and said, like, yes, let's think about how we leverage the training that they already have access to say, like, this is the thing that would benefit you the most.
Yeah, that's a good point. There could be a lot of resources already within the company that are just in this higher performing potential area. You have a lot of access to things that are already there, and it could be just connecting the dots. Well, thank you so much, Krista. This is very informative. I really enjoyed talking with you. And is there any closing thoughts that you would like to add before we wrap up today?
No, I think we've covered everything. I mean, I think the maturity assessment is a great way to look at an organization and see where there's ways to make the already solid talent you have perform even better. So I think it's just a great way to learn and educate people.
Great. Thank you so much, Krista. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.